Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Freshly Brewed podcast. I know it has certainly been a while. I've been quite busy with some outside-related happenings, but some recent news recently caught my attention and has created a bit of a conversation, so I figured I would get some of my thoughts down and let you guys know my take on it. So what exactly am I alluding to? Well, if you follow the streetwear scene in really any capacity, you've certainly heard of this, and it's the recent news that Supreme has sold a minority stake in the company to the Carlyle Group, who valued Supreme at roughly $1 billion. How large that stake is, that's still unknown. Some say it's a 50% stake, some say even more, but the business of fashion that confirmed the sale believes it's a small stake, and that's kind of further reinforced by the statement from James Jebbia, who said, quote, "We're a growing brand, and to sustain that growth, we've chosen to work with Carlyle, who has the operational expertise needed to keep us on the steady path we've been on since 1994. Working with Carlyle allows us to concentrate on doing what we do best and remain in control of our brand as we always have." All this is also coming right on the heels of the opening of the new Supreme store in Brooklyn and the Jebbia interview with GQ, in which he discussed his philosophy behind the new store. He said, "I wish people would understand why we have a line. Because we don't have many shops, we aren't sold anywhere but our own shops, and we have good stuff, but it shouldn't be so difficult for people to come into our shops. We just want to have a space that on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, people can just come to and walk in and check out our stuff." You know, the gist of it is just he wants there to be places in New York, especially kind of the cultural main hub for Supreme, where people can check the brand out on their own accord, not have to deal with the insanity of a Thursday drop, just be able to walk in on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like he said, check the place out, see if it appeals to them, and make up their own mind. In the interview, he also talks about why Supreme won't open a flagship type store or several multiple ones. He says, "We're here for the long haul. A big shop in Manhattan would feel like we're betraying our roots, and we're not just going to open a bunch of stores. We only open a new store when we do it right. The people we work with are super important, and we only do it when we feel it's right." So now that I've kind of got you all sort of caught up with the basic exposition, let's get down into kind of what I'm going to be talking about. Mostly, what does this selling of the stake mean for Supreme's future? And also kind of tying into the notion of what does it mean when a streetwear brand, a fashion brand, sells out? A lot of people have been saying this is kind of Supreme's selling out moment, and I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, I kind of want to talk about what this selling the stake really means. But in order to do that, let's first talk about the Carlyle Group. So the Carlyle Group is a multinational private equity, alternative asset management, and financial services corporation. And they are one of, if not the largest private equity and alternative investment firms in the world. I think just recently they were crowned #1. So they're kind of a big deal, right? So what a private equity company does is they'll buy stakes in companies, or they'll buy the company outright. They'll invest in them to make them more valuable, usually for about 3 to 5 years, and then they'll sell their stake or the company later on, make a profit, and go on and do the same thing with another company. Now, personally, when it comes to how large of a stake they bought in Supreme, I believe that they have a minority stake. I don't think that they own half. I don't think that they own more than James Jebbia does. I don't see him giving up control of the company like that. I think Supreme is still very clearly something he cares a lot about. I do think his heart is still in it. You know, I mentioned kind of in the first mini cast with the Louis Vuitton collab, you know, is this kind of, you know, this mixing of streetwear and higher fashion, you know, what does that kind of mean? But I still think that that was done with the best intentions for Supreme and the best sort of view as the head of the company. I don't think it was done solely out of a kind of, let me make as much money as possible, let me devalue the status of my brand potentially for the pursuit of more money. I still think he values Supreme as something more than just a means for profit. I think there still is that personal connection and attachment that will not let him just allow for the brand to be bought out like that, out of nowhere, right as they're hitting their stride in terms of success, continuous, constant growth and success. I just don't see him as being the kind of person to just say, okay, well, we've started to hit this now and we've consistently been progressing, time to get rid of it. So then what that raises is the question of what is the Carlyle Group getting out of this? What is making this worth their while? And what is Supreme going to do with the money that they're getting from the investment? So first off, what is the Carlyle Group getting out of this? The plain and simple answer for me is that this is easy money and easy turnaround for them. With the ever-increasing popularity of Supreme, the continuous growth, like I mentioned, in terms of their worth and their status, they're pretty much guaranteed to make more money 3 to 5 years down the line. So even with a small stake, a billion-dollar company like Supreme is going to generate a nice return from that stake. Their investments, of course, are going to help ensure that, but it's just the notion that this is a low-risk, easy turnaround investment. They're guaranteed to make their money back and then some. If they bought too much, I think it could have caused too much negative reaction. You know, there's already some backlash with a minority stake. If they went too far, that might have cost them. So I think it's a good way of playing it safe, of feeling out this kind of market, seeing any kind of potential, seeing if there's any future kind of endeavors in working with Supreme, if it's worth their while, and sort of setting the stage for their potential expansion into this market. Is that a good thing? Is it not? Again, that kind of comes down to your personal opinion of outside investments and marketing stuff getting involved with streetwear. But for the Carlyle Group, this is a great low-risk, guaranteed moneymaker. Now, I do know there's some concerns with regards to, even if them having just a minority stake, are they still going to be interfering in Supreme in the creative process especially? Are they going to have a hand in what kind of designs and pieces and collaborations we're going to be seeing in the next few years? Are they going to make things a bit more dialed down? Are they going to kind of take away the creative spark from Supreme to kind of make it more mass appealing? And again, going against the grain a little bit, trying to be a bit more optimistic, I think that if they're smart about it, they won't. They're going to leave that alone. Now, granted, of course, I say this as someone sitting here at their computer. They're running the largest private equity firm in the world. But in my humble opinion, I think if they're wise enough to see how Supreme generates their hype and, of course, their income. They're providing clothes and an overall experience that other brands aren't. Just like James Jebbia said, you know, people need to understand why we have a line. We don't have many shops, we aren't sold anywhere but our own shops, and we have good stuff. The moment you take that away, you're going to lose not only the core that buys the clothes, you know, the core that is involved with Supreme and the culture. They've been around for a while. But you're also going to lose the hype beasts and the other associated company that buy it for the name, the supposed, you know, hyper status that it has now, stuff like that, and that'll wipe away all the profit. And this gets into the selling out of brands. So if we take brands like Stussy or the Hundreds, they used to have some weight associated with their names in streetwear. Stussy used to be, you know, the de facto top dog in streetwear fashion circles. But once they kind of hit that point where they sold out, they became purchasable at every mall and all these other stores, and they tuned their designs to be more mass appealing, more kind of safer. The hype for them, the interesting designs, all that went away in the pursuit of raw output to as many potential buyers as possible. And I can hear you saying, well, aren't they going to be making more money that way? As well as also saying, are you perhaps living in a bit of a bubble with your own perspective clouding your judgment? And it's possible to say yes to both of those. Of course, the more people that you are selling to or trying to sell to, the greater chance you have to make more money. But I think there's another example that I think kind of shows that that doesn't really work out all the time. And also is my own perspective clouding my judgment. Again, possible. Stussy isn't a dead brand. The Hundreds isn't a dead brand per se. They're still selling clothes. They're not going under. People are still wearing them. It's not like they instantly evaporated from the scene. But again, the major thing, I think, is staying power. Staying power, relevancy in a massive, massive kind of appeal. And I think that's where a brand like Supreme differs from them. See, the problem with opening your brand up to kind of mall core mainstream levels is once a hot new brand comes along, or if you bet too much on your base carrying over when you make that mainstream transition, you can easily lose all of the status, all of the profit that your brand had. Diamond Supply Company is one of the best recent examples that I can think of. They started out more exclusive. They had their own stores. They were making some interesting designs. They were collabing with brands like Nike and stuff on some very hyped and, clamored for releases. But they bet too much on going mainstream, on going mall core, and it cost them. That core quickly dropped. The support quickly dropped. And the brand is pretty much dead at this point. And I can kind of hear you say, well, I saw everyone in my school or this and that, they were all wearing Diamond Supply Co. shirts or shorts or socks or hats. They had that kind of rush for a very brief amount of time in terms of fashion. There's an initial public rush when something kind of goes mainstream like that, where all the kids will rush out to grab, whatever they can, because the brand is still exclusive to them. It still feels exclusive. They haven't had it before. So, of course, seeing it now, somewhere they can go buy it, they still have that sort of feeling now, that rush that comes with it. But the core is going to be turned off by it. They're going to walk away from the brand. And then all those people that weren't into it, that have now gotten into it once it's mainstream, that feeling of exclusiveness is going to wash away when they see everyone else and their grandmother wearing the brand. They'll ditch it too, and then they'll be on the search for the next exclusive brand. And Supreme, they're in this very rare situation where they've struck this balance of mainstream knowledge and appeal and physical exclusiveness. Funnily enough, the Louis Vuitton collab, I think, shows that best. You were hard-pressed not to see any kind of social media or blog mentioning the collaboration, the price points, stuff like that, the hype for it. But at the same time, when it was actually released, they limited it to certain stores on certain days with massive price tags and limited quantities. So if you upset that balance of that mainstream appeal and knowledge and that exclusiveness, it would spell disaster financially for Supreme and by extension the Carlyle Group's investment in the company. What I think you are more likely to see is that Supreme is going to use the money from that investment and the knowledge that the Carlyle Group has from doing this for so long to take care of the kinks in their back house stuff. Plenty of items are still being shipped broken, they're being misprinted, or, that one guy like a week or two ago, he got the standard clippers from the Clipper collaboration with a couple stickers. He didn't even get the Brandon one, Stuff like that you want to fix for your company. That's priority number one, I think. And then also they can use that money to start expanding. Now, when I say expand, I'm not talking about a Supreme store on every corner, but where it makes sense for them to do so. The rest of their stores have always kind of made sense when it comes to expanding. Granted, Japan is a little weird. They have 5, but for the most part, the rest of them make sense. Where you might start seeing stores, I would expect potentially in Canada. It's about time the Canadian boys got some love. They got to pay all those crazy fees. Give them at least a store. As well as potentially more in Europe. Funnily enough, too, right before I started recording this, I saw there's the current rumors that Supreme is going to be opening up a store in Milan, Italy soon, potentially next year or 2019, which is going to be tied into a couple other store openings during that time period with that kind of investment money coming in. I would also not be surprised to see Asia open up as well, say in South Korea or China especially, which is a very huge lucrative market to potentially tap into. So again, I'm usually a pessimist about stuff like this, but I don't think Supreme has sold out. I don't think they've hit that line yet. And I don't think that they're ruined. I don't think the future is bleak. I still have some faith and some hope. Could I be wrong? Of course. I could wake up tomorrow and see that they're going back on everything, but I still have faith that that's not going to be happening anytime soon. I see this just as a smart business venture for both of them. This is a smart way for Supreme to get some extra capital to ensure that they can expand properly while also maintaining their back house stuff, getting that up to snuff for the expansions, and for the Carlyle Group to make some easy money and get into a market that maybe they see as very lucrative. So it's an easy way for them to get their foot into that, understand what this market is, feel it out, and move on to potentially other ones. You may not like that. I sound very kind of straightforward businessy, and business stuff like that and streetwear generally don't always mix. I don't think people like to think about streetwear like that, but that is kind of the reality of it. That's kind of how it works. It is a business. But I will also raise the point that this is just talking about the Carlyle Group's investment for the next 3 to 5 years. What happens after that? That's where I'm willing to say there's a lot more uncertainty. when it comes time for the Carlyle Group to sell that stake, the question is, well, who could they potentially sell it to? That is the sort of unknown territory. I can't give a definitive, I can't give a definitive answer for that. Part of me, again, still wants to be a little optimistic, but that's where I would say keep an eye on where things might be going. But for now, I think everything is going to be all right. But of course, I would always love to hear what you guys have to think about this. Feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you guys think, whether or not you think that this is going to be a net positive thing or the beginning of the end times. Whatever side you are on, I'm very interested to hear your guys' takes on it. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble about this, and I will catch you all next time.